Well, I'm glad to be with you this morning at First Unitarian Society Milwaukee. We welcome people of all genders, ages, sexualities, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all you are carrying with you today and all your heart longs to set down. I welcome you to our worship service by inviting you to repeat our mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. These opening words are by Leah Angiri. This is the season of repair, time to reflect, time to reflect on how we might endure when life tears at us. We are held by the great book of life, in which it is written that we will inevitably face deprivation and discomfort, longing and forgiveness. Each among us must contemplate our own place in it all. As those of us in relationship with Judaism mark the high holy days, our hearts fill with hope and fear, turning and settling, mystery and agency, accountability and acceptance. Let us gather today in somber celebration of our shared humanity and our personal power. Come, let us worship together. Let's return to our sanctuary for the lighting of the flaming chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Tomchek Carlson, and I am the Minister of Religious Education here at First Church. The story I have for you today is called Tear Water Tea, and it's by Arnold Lobel. Owl took the kettle out of the cupboard. Tonight I will make tear water tea, he said, and he put the kettle on his lap. Now, said Owl, I will begin. Owl sat very still, and he began to think of things that were sad. Chairs with broken legs, said Owl, and his eyes began to water. Songs that cannot be sung because the words have been forgotten, said Owl. Owl began to cry. A large tear rolled down and plop, dropped into the kettle. Spoons that have fallen behind the stove and are never seen again, said Owl. More tears dropped down into the kettle. Books that cannot be read, said Owl, because some of the pages have been torn out. Clocks that have stopped, and there's no one around to wind them. Owl was crying. Many large tears dropped into the kettle. Plop, plop. Mornings, mornings that nobody saw because everyone was still sleeping, said Owl. Mashed potatoes left on a plate, he cried, because no one wanted to eat them, and pencils that are too short to use. Owl thought about many other sad things. He cried and cried. And soon the kettle was all filled up with tears. There, said Owl, that does it. And Owl stopped crying. He put the kettle on the stove to boil for tea. Owl felt happy as he filled up his cup. Oh, he said, it tastes a little bit salty, but tear water tea is always very good. The end.
Thank you, Kimberly. Friends, because of the unprecedented times in which we are living and the ways our lives are being touched by grief and loss in this global coronavirus pandemic, we continue our pandemic practice of lighting the COVID candle for any of our members or staff members who have had a loved one die, either from COVID or from another cause. If you have had a loved one die during this time and would like the COVID candle lit for them during Sunday worship, please contact one of the ministers. Today, I'm sorry to say that we are lighting the candle for two losses. Elizabeth Martorell's nephew and godson, Jose Eduardo Miguel Lopez S. McNally, known as Jem, died from COVID-19 on August 24th in Mexico City. He was 59 years old. Jem was a cardiologist who treated patients with COVID-19. Kimberly Tomchuk Carlson's close friend, Elandria Williams, died unexpectedly on September 23rd in Knoxville, Tennessee, some hours after undergoing a successful heart procedure. Elandria was 41 years old. Elandria served as a leader in our faith in many ways, most recently as co-moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association. So today, we light the candle in honor of Jose Eduardo Miguel Lopez S. McNally and in honor of Elandria Williams. As we enter into a time of meditation, followed by silence, followed by singing Spirit of Life, I invite you to find a way wherever you are to ground yourself. Perhaps you can put your feet on the floor. Maybe find a way to lift your spine so that you can breathe deeply. And let your hands come to a resting place. This spoken meditation is by Lisa Friedman. Spirit of life and love, we live in a fragmented world that tempts us to despair. We would put it back together, piece by piece, if it were ours to choose. But sometimes the fragments are enough. In a world of cruelty, there is still power in every act of kindness. In a time of doubt, there is still power in every act of hope. In an age of division, there is still power in every act of unity. May we remember that sometimes the fragments of meaning we make are just the right size to hold in our hands.
I'm pleased to be your worship associate today. The neurosurgeon couldn't say when it happened, only that it was long-standing, which he explained meant chronic. It's here, and it's not going away. Now, most people have 4 arteries that deliver blood to the brain. I learned about 15 years ago during a doctor's visit that I have 3. You've probably heard of the left and right carotid arteries. These are the big vessels in the neck that mainly supply oxygen to the thinking, the cerebral parts of our giant human brains. The carotid arteries fuel consciousness and logic and creativity and keep our memories alive. But you may not have heard of the lesser ancient vertebral arteries that are spliced into either side of the vertebrae in our spine and then combine in the back of the neck to feed the basilar artery, basilar meaning basis or base. These are the pipes that carry oxygen to the core of the brain, the part that motivates breathing and gives balance and animates us. Now, one of my vertebral arteries isn't there or doesn't work, and it's unclear why. Perhaps I injured it during rough childhood play. I recall once hanging upside down by my knees on a swing set and being tickled by a neighbor girl until I fell headfirst onto the hard dirt below and saw stars for days. Or perhaps I was born with only one vertebral artery. But no matter, the neurosurgeon said with a confident smile, you'll be fine. Now you're probably thinking, as I was at the time, whoa, wait, how can 3 arteries do the job of 4? Well, doctors call the brilliant plumbing to the brain the circle of Willis. When one artery is blocked in the circle of Willis, the others pick up the slack, rerouting the flow to ensure that the entire brain gets what it needs. It's a matter of many vascular paths leading to the same place, supported by the pressure created when the heart pumps. This is what has been going on in my body for at least 15 years and possibly 50 years or more. And we live in an ingenious, self-healing, and redundant physical system that has evolved to help us survive trauma and make us resilient. Make no mistake, I have a chronic injury, but I am also chronically healing. That's what it means to live. As long as we are living, we are rerouting and regenerating and repairing and renewing. We are making cells to replace cells that are at the end of their useful lives. We're building upon generation of wonderful, beautiful, supple scar tissue. Now, when I told Dina about this in preparation for today's service, she said, I am grateful that your body did that. And I replied, well, I am too, and I appreciate that, but your body can do what mine has, and it might be doing it right now. We just don't know. There are, of course, incurable conditions, illnesses that our bodies may never overcome, like cancer and Alzheimer's, and sometimes COVID-19. But I believe that as humans, we hold many of the tools that we need for survival and healing, and even regeneration. And we sometimes simply don't know that we have them, like the circle of Willis. What would our lives be like if we thought about living not as something transactional or with an expiration date, but instead as a continuous process of renewal? My guess is that we might feel grateful for every magical minute.
I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. No matter where you go, no matter where you've been, you'll never walk alone. I feel you deep within. So I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. No matter what you feel or what you choose to show, I'm always there for you. And so I want you to know that I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I walk the path with you. Go slow, dear one, don't hurry. I'll go just like you need to go. There is no need to worry, 'cause I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
Thank you for that beauty. Mm. It's been another hard week. It seems our endurance is being tested. Our capacity to both bear and to witness suffering is being tested. Hasn't this always been so? To be human is to break and be broken, to repair and renew. Some religious communities have traditions that help people with the process of acknowledging our brokenness and teach ways that help people do the hard work of repair. The Jewish tradition is one of these. Yom Kippur begins at sunset this evening and ends tomorrow at nightfall. Also known as the Day of Atonement, it's the holiest day of the year in the Jewish calendar. During the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, there is a process of internal reckoning and external repair that people are expected to do. This is hard work and not perfunctory. Unitarian Universalist minister Victoria Safford puts it this way in her essay, At One. Imagine this. On the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, every fall, every year, the people make their peace with anyone they have wronged or slighted or injured or in any way neglected in the past 12 months. The task is not to patch things up, smooth things over, reach a compromise, or sweep mistakes and uneasy memories under the rug. The task is not to feel better. The task is ownership. The goal is truth for its own redemptive sake. I did this. I said this to you and it was wrong. I neglected this. I botched this. I betrayed you thusly. I demeaned you, whether you ever knew it or not. This is the truth in which both of us are living. I ask you to forgive me. Imagine how many deep breaths you would need to take. Imagine how many doors you'd have to knock on, how many phone calls you'd have to make, how many letters, how many lunches and coffees, how many awkward moments with your children and your parents, and with strangers, that cashier to whom you spoke so sharply. Awkward is irrelevant. The task is not about comfort. It is about truth, about wholeness and holiness, restoration. Imagine this. Someone has been preparing all year to speak with you, to write to you, to ask you a hard question, perhaps in some way not quite conscious. You have even known this, and you have been preparing too. Finally, you answer the door or the phone or open the letter with shaky hands. And there it is. What you thought you'd been longing for, but really have dreaded. Someone is asking your forgiveness. The task is not about comfort, it is about truth. Awkward is irrelevant. You get to choose now. You have to choose whether and how you will participate in restoration. Abandon the pleasant piety that claims knee-jerk forgiveness as the unquestioned moral course. You get to choose which way will be right in this case, between you as persons and with all your gods. What response will make the world more whole? Friends, I have never done this, not in an annual way, not in a ritual way, not within a community of practice, only as needed in my personal or professional life. That is challenging when the need arises. But I wonder, would it be different if everyone in my community was doing it at the same time of year? Liz Lerner McClay does practice this annually. She identifies as both Jewish and Unitarian Universalist. In the anthology Jewish Voices in Unitarian Universalism, she writes, I don't know how many you make these Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur phone calls, but I have done it for years. It's gotten so that if I call a loved one during that period of 10 days, they'll just ask, is this the phone call? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it becomes the phone call, even if I originally dialed for another reason, since it's hard to delay that sort of conversation once it's been suggested. She continues, Jewish theology holds that forgiveness has to happen on the mortal plane, between individuals, before any larger or divine forgiveness can take place. This is a big deal because of the high holy days when tradition holds that all people are judged by God as to whether they deserve another year, written into the book of life. Forgiveness is required in order to be in good standing, pardoned or absolved of guilt. Forgiveness is not optional. It is critical. Your life literally depends on it. Not surprisingly, this means there's a lot in Jewish tradition and practice about forgiveness. Perhaps the most important point, according to the Jewish system, is that the onus to invoke forgiveness is on the wrongdoer, not the wronged. The wrongdoer is the one responsible for winning any forgiveness that might follow on what they have done. The system is very explicit about what is owed and what must be done, and these steps are non-negotiable. The wrongdoer does a bad thing which hurts someone else. The person who has been hurt can just stay hurt. As far as forgiveness goes, they don't have to do anything, which makes sense because after all, they're the one who has been injured, and it's enough that they have to deal with that injury and whatever fallout it entails. It's up to the person who did the injury to own up, admit what they did, apologize and ask for forgiveness, offer to make it up to the injured person, however they can, however the injured person chooses. Here's the crucial part. The wrongdoer must take all these steps with the actual person they hurt. It's not enough to process it oneself, resolve to make it up in ways we think make sense, or to talk it over with a therapist or other confessor. That's not enough. And here's another kicker. We're not off the hook unless the person we've wronged says we are. In other words, if we wrong someone and go through the steps of admitting it to them, asking truly for their forgiveness, and asking to make it up to them somehow, they can say no. They can refuse to forgive us and refuse to allow us to make it up to them. Forgiveness is not just a whim and not something we can just withhold if we're feeling grouchy. If we're going to withhold it, we need to take that very seriously and have a really good reason. Because this is not only about the relationship between two parties, it's also about God. Divine forgiveness doesn't come into play. It just can't unless obligations on the human level have been satisfied. If those obligations don't take place, the results are very tangible. One doesn't get written into the book of life at the next new year. You put your life here and now in jeopardy when you walk around with unforgiven wrongs attached to you. Whew. I've never thought about forgiveness this way before, but it's true about being human. I am a person who walks around with unforgiven wrongs attached to me. Some of the wrongs I'm aware of and some I'm not. And hasn't this always been the human condition? We are not perfect. We hurt people. We break things and relationships. We harm earth, air, water, the interdependent web of life just by living in the world today. And we can choose to repair and thereby renew our lives, the lives of others, and the life of the world. In David L. Helfer's chapter, Picking Up the Pieces from Jewish Voices in UUism, he wrote, Judaism demands of its people no less than a full life commitment to healing the brokenness we find. Such healing is known in the Jewish tradition as tikkun olam. Tikkun calls for repair. Olam means world. We are called to repair our world. Holocaust survivor and teacher of Jewish mysticism, Julia Corbett Hemeyer, tells of how the 16th century Kabbalist rabbi Isaac Luria taught that God formed vessels of light to hold the divine light. But as God poured light into the vessels broke into thousands of pieces because the divine light could not be contained. This is the meaning of tikkun olam. In healing the world, we are metaphorically bringing back together the shards of divine light. How do we pick up the pieces after another hard week? The funeral of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Kentucky's grand jury decision in the Louisville police shooting death of unarmed 26-year-old Breonna Taylor, the current president of the United States claiming he will not commit to a peaceful transfer of power should he not be reelected in November. The global pandemic's death toll rising above 200,000 in our country alone. The unexpected death of Alandria Williams, a leader in our faith movement. The memorial service we held for our church member, Lisa Radke. And I'm sure there's more that made this another hard week, more that is broken in the private resources of our hearts. Yes, our hearts do have resources. What I meant to say was the private recesses of our hearts. Oh, that makes me think about what's in our hearts differently. So what I'm saying is I don't know all that made this a hard week for you. And I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's more we all do not know. And unfortunately, I'm sure there's more that is coming for our private lives and the public arenas of the communities in which we live and move and try to heal and try to make an impact within. So this question of how do we pick up the pieces after another hard week, it's a weekly question. How do we find the shards of divine light amidst all this pain? How do we repair harm? Unitarian Universalist minister Nancy MacDonald Ladd wrote in her book, After the Good News, "We are out of practice with atonement. As existential reckoning is not in the wheelhouse of the liberal Protestant tradition. We don't really do that anymore." Jason Shelton discovered that one of the reasons UUs are out of practice with atonement is because our hymnals no longer contain liturgies of confession and repentance. In 1964, when we moved from the red hymnal to the blue hymnal, we lost the readings and prayers of confession. They weren't included. So we, by and large, lost the ritual elements in a worship service that draw us into acknowledge of our shortcomings and compel a motion toward our better selves as a community, as individuals within a community. Well, I grew up with the blue hymnal. I loved it. But as a result, I did not grow up with a communal ritual practice of seeking and granting forgiveness. And I don't think we have one now. We regained a few readings of this type in our current gray hymnal under the heading Confessions and under the heading Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but I'm not aware of a UU liturgical practice around atonement, at least not here at First Church. It makes me wonder if we had more practice exercising the muscles of atonement, would we have more strength to repair the brokenness in ourselves and in the world? Would we become more on a first name basis with our mistakes and more accepting that making mistakes is part of being human? Would we be able to confront more often that hallmark characteristic of white supremacy culture that demands perfection from all of us? And of course, we can't be perfect, and so then we feel terrible about our mistakes, but don't necessarily have a communal practice to support one another in repairing harm. So I'm wondering if we had that, and you know, I'm my mind is greatly influenced by that chapter in MacDonald Ladd's book. I wonder if we had that, would we cause less harm, especially in our awkward anti-racism work? MacDonald Ladd says that being out of practice results in a fundamental confusion between atonement and absolution. Authentic absolutions imply a willingness not just to be forgiven, but to make amends and to be changed so completely that our actions and reactions can bring us into right relationship with the world and those we share it with. She continues, we do not have the right to request or demand absolution from those we have wounded. Whether people choose to forgive us or not is none of our business. Whether or not we are willing to live differently is. The human body knows how to repair its wounds and regenerate its cells. Our bodies are continuously healing themselves until they are not. The communal body, the group body, may or may not know how to repair its wounds and renew its spirit. When relationships within community break, repairing what is broken is a choice. Will we make that choice? Within us, with each other, around us, in the world? This is the season of repair. Where do we begin to repair and renew? I think we start with knowing that we are worthy, knowing it in our bones and our muscles, in the very connective tissue that holds us together. So I'd like to end my reflections with A long and beautiful piece by Alandria Williams, who wrote, "We are worthy, not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what it is in your mind, not for the support you give others, not for what you give at all. We are worthy and whole just because." In this great turning, in this great pandemic, in this radical readjustment and alignment, we are not disposable. We are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that has been thrown at us as a people. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise. We arise from the pain. We rise from the grief. We arise from the limits people place on us and the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves in relationship to our families and communities, recognizing our liberating and whole selves, honoring them and others as we strive for abundant communities, abundant lives, abundant relationships, and abundant values and cultural manifestations. We are worthiness personified. I, you, and we are worthy and deserve a life where we're not always fighting for our existence. Imagine what we could create if we were not always in the struggle. Imagine what we could envision if we could just be let to just go there. So tired of always having to resist, to fight, demanding, pushing. To everyone who has the courage, the power, the ability to co-create what we want and need, while rooting in what we can't lose and who we are. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dreams. No, you might never end up on some list somewhere, but you are on a list in someone's heart and mind. And if it's in how you move in the world so people can see by example, you are the embodiment of what we need. Thanks to all that are the embodiment not of productivity, but the embodiment of radical love, care, and sanctuary. It's time. Embodiment time. Embodiment. Living one's values out loud. Let me every day live my values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud, embodying our values. Not the productivity quotient, beyond productivity, past productivity. True embodiment, life. So friends, let us celebrate the healing power of our bodies and the collective body. Let us repair and renew that all may have life and life abundant. Thank you, Elizabeth. Good to see you. Good to hear your music. And thank you all so much for your generosity. Pledges are the core of our church's spiritual practice of generosity. We are also grateful for additional gifts to support our ministry and thank the folks out there who are appreciating this online ministry and supporting it by texting 73256 with the message give to you $, or giving on our website. Your gifts help us continue to provide this ministry. We also share the plate with an organization each month. In September, our Share the Plate recipient is the River West Food Pantry, which comes together around food to relieve hunger, improve lives, and grow community well-being. You can go to their website and give with the note STP from FUSM. You can see all these options on your screen now, and they will live on in the YouTube comments section of this video after worship is over. Thank you so much for giving right now or when you come back later. Your support keeps us and our community partners going. Thank you. These closing words are a short excerpt from Spilling the Light by Teresa I. Soto. To what have we promised ourselves? To this moment in time and place, to this community and even tenderly interconnected, this planet. We promise ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings. We promise that there is something moving between us that we cannot tame and cannot measure. The chalice is a reminder that what flame we keep inside us cannot light the way. The light must spill to shine.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah.